What's up, everybody, and welcome to ITG Daily, the show that brings you the hottest in gaming news. I'm Drew Bosley. You can find me on Twitter at ArtisticGamer28, and that's the one, the only. It's Scott Savage. You can find him on Twitter at Savage. Scott, what's happening, man? It's December 1st, dude. It's December.
I'm extra sleepy today, spending a lot of time cleaning up some review games, getting the Riders Republic. There's a lot.
I saw you playing that last night. How'd that go? What were you doing?
Oh, it was a lot of fun. I was doing a lot of the rocket kind of races, but then moved on to just mega race. That's a lot of fun.
Nice, those mega.
I'm gonna win one of those eventually.
Dude, they're so hard. That's like, whoever achieves that, you gotta be like, man, this is like 1 in a million. It almost feels like, right? It's like kind of winning the lottery. It's pretty.
They all have
cool.
Like 10,000 stars too, which is the ranking system. So it's crazy. These people played a year and the game's not out yet.
Exactly. But where you guys can always join us is over on twitch.tv/theofficialitg, as well as YouTube at Inside the Game Official. But you can't join us live, hit us up later. InsideTheGame.ca, podcast services and TV streaming networks around the globe, because they are supporting us as well. So we see you over in the world of TV. Thank you very much for hanging out with us. Dude, coming up on today's show, you ready for this? Bethesda releases a little insight with the endless pursuit for Starfield. Metroid Dread developer is working on a dark fantasy RPG, and Battlefield 2042 has lost half of its player base already. The game just launched. Like, it's just, oh, come on, really? But
everybody's come through for their curiosity, but
wow, that's just it, right? I touched on it the other day how I already deleted my game. Nate's done the same thing, right? Like, it's just We'll get into it. But let's get into what's going on with Stephanie Nunley over at VG247. She talks about Starfield developer diary features, some teases of the upcoming RPG. Bethesda has released a developer diary for Starfield called The Endless Pursuit, which features a small tease of the upcoming sci-fi. They sat down with some of the creative directors, the studio director, all that kind of stuff. Todd Howard was there, Angela was there, Matt was there, discussing Bethesda Game Studios' ambitions and passions and the history. Have they shaped the studio and how they are looking to the future with Starfield. If you're unfamiliar with the backstory for the RPG, it is said to be set hundreds of years in the future and covers what humanity can do once it breaks free of the confines of Earth. It is the first new universe in 25 years from Bethesda Game Studios, and allows you to create any character you want and allows you to explore the game with lots of freedom, and you strive to answer humanity's greatest mystery. Set in the year 2330, man, I almost got that one wrong. The game will feature 3 factions to interact with, 2 of which are the largest. These are the United Colonies and the Freestar Collective. You start off in the Constellation faction as an explorer of the galaxy. The focus of the game is on the colony war waged in 2310 between the Freestar Collective and the United Colonies. Currently, peace prevails, but the uneasiness between the two factions can boil over. As far as the enemies go, expect plenty of human treats out there, including pirates, mercenaries, spacers. Dude, really? That's a thing? Is that really a thing? And factional religious zealots. Dude, how excited are you? This is supposed to be... Okay, let's go this way. It's supposed to release on November 11th, 2022. Do you think that it hits the release date?
Well, that's a hard bet there, because we've seen a lot of release dates come and go and have to be reorganized. And this project is so large that I wouldn't be terribly surprised if they delayed just a little longer.
Yeah. And
I think I'm on the side that would support that kind of a decision. We don't want what happened with Battlefield to happen. When there's these events here that come up and they seem to be more of just like a hype event, I get nervous. There's a lot of different people here. Todd Howard, of course. I'm just worried that Sean Murphy will appear and make some promises that nobody can hold up to.
Well, now you look at Sean's studio with Hello Games and what they've done with No Man's Sky, and it's turned into something absolutely incredible. But now
that's true.
into the world of, we see Skyrim. They talked about Skyrim and how it's gone for 10 years and people are still in that game every day. Dude, I was hanging out with Nate and Joel, Nate's brother, last night, and dude, Joel's playing Skyrim. I was just like, why? And he's talking about his old dragons set up now. They can't get burned now and all this other stuff. It's completely over my head because I was never into Skyrim. But it's fascinating to see 10 years later, Bethesda games are still so beloved and still played to this very day. Talking with Joel last night and how he's so invested in this thing for like the 5th time or 4th time. I don't know how many times he's played this game, but he's playing it again. Right? Moving into Starfield now, we get set up with all these other factions, this whole new universe. First time they've done something different, really, in 25 years, Scott.
Yeah, and I'm really hopeful that this game will have the kind of lasting power that Skyrim has had and others that are kind of similar. The Fallout games, people keep going back. And
yeah.
I want Starfield to become one of those because I want a new setting, a change up, and something quality enough to last. Doesn't have to be a decade, but years.
No, for sure. They also touched on how it's going to be grounded. I was like, really? Where you go with Skyrim, right? And it's so dark fantasy and all that kind of other stuff. Where we get into sci-fi, which isn't really my thing either. But if you get me in a bit of a more grounded scenario, dude, I could be really hooked into this thing and going for a while. And it has me kind of excited. Do I think they hit the release date? No. I really don't. I think right now they're starting to gear towards that and they're starting to build the hype. This is why they have, the Endless Pursuit little featurette of how they're building upon, all their back history of developing games and how it has this longevity in their titles and what they've learned from all that to bring into Starfield. But dude, like you said, this is a massive, very ambitious game. And to hit that, November is really a year away. A lot can get done in a year, but I don't know if it's going to be enough. I would not be surprised to see that a month before, 2 months before, sorry, everybody, we're going to have to delay it until 2023. That's my prediction.
That would be a few months. That could make a lot of sense, actually. That would line up early 23 kind of release date.
Yeah.
But I don't believe we've seen any sort of gameplay out of this at all in any capacity. So being a year away, I kind of would have expected to see something, even if it's just conceptual.
Well, we do see concept art and very, very little of it. I think that's the one thing we do see, but we don't see any gameplay. We still don't really know what we're doing, right? All we know is we're out there exploring. We're a year out. How much footage have we seen of games where they're a year and a half away, 2 years out, and we've already seen, here's a gameplay trailer of what you can expect. Look at Horizon Forbidden West and the amount of content we've seen in that game, right? And they pushed that to next year for 2022 in February, but they're still over a year away with Starfield. So there's definitely time, Scott, but at this current time right now, dude, I don't think they're going to hit that release date. I'm hopeful they do because it would be great to see, but I wouldn't be surprised if that's what I said, they push it to 2023.
Yeah, let's see how much that November time slot kind of fills up over the next year too, because it might be a strategic advantage to delaying the release a little bit, but I only say that because of what we've seen with the traffic pile up that happened this November.
This November, and now look at February for 2022. February is getting absolutely loaded. But with your Bethesda, do you think you have to be one of the companies to move your game, or do you think everybody else should move the way out of them? And maybe that's why they've announced the release date already. Say, hey, look at November's coming next year. This is our month. Step aside, right? Because it would be so surprising. Good point.
That could exactly be it, just to kind of pin down a couple weeks of a release issue, really.
Yeah.
Just, hey, this is where we're going to be. It's one of the big anchors of the Xbox side, so that makes a lot of sense.
It's one of the big purchases, right? But let's continue on now in the world of Metroid Dread. Developers working on a dark fantasy action RPG for multiple platforms. This comes from Dom over at VG 24/7. Like Metroid Dread, you're not alone. The game has seen some remarkable scores across the launch, with Samus launching latest adventure tipped to the high upmost for people's Game of the Year list. And that's a weird verbiage. Keen to the riot momentum of the release, 505 Games has announced it will be publishing a new game from the studio behind Metroid Dread, Mercury Steam. The new game, so far only codenamed Project Iron, has an initial development budget of roughly $30.7 million.
Ooh.
I don't... That's a pretty sizable budget, Scott, but I've seen
I wonder how
bigger.
that compares to others. Yeah, it just kind of gives away some of the scope of this project, maybe.
Well, exactly, right? Like, what was Metroid Dread's budget? What did they have to work with? Now they also had the dollars behind Nintendo to help them with that. Yeah, but
it was probably an open check.
There's not much information about the game out there right now, but an announcement from Digital Brothers, parent company of 505 Games, who will co-own the IP with Mercury Steam, says that the title is a brand new IP intended for a multi-platform global release. That likely means you can expect the game to launch on consoles and PC. This probably isn't going to be a Switch exclusive like Dread was. Quote, "We are thrilled to work with the team at Mercury Steam, a proven studio that over the years has created numerous phenomenal IPs, including the recent hit release Metroid Dread in the partnership with Nintendo," said Rafi and Rami Galante, the co-CEOs of Digital Brothers, in the statement. Quote, "With Mercury Steam's creative vision and the talent and 505 Games' extensive experience, gamers can expect a high-quality, captivating, and engaging video game," end quote. Scott, coming off of Metroid Dread, you loved it. It was up there with your game of the year as well, I believe.
Oh, definitely. Yeah, no, this is a huge hit they had. And it was something that, well, it would have stood up to a lot of scrutiny from the fans. And it passed.
Absolutely.
So that gives me some high hopes here, because if you can maneuver a delicate project and produce something really good, then what can you do when you're left to your own creativity? I'm really curious to see what this project comes out to be, the kind of scope behind it, how much support it gets. I'm curious to see. If it's not a mobile project, I don't believe.
No, it's going to be console release and PCs, kind of what we're speculating now at this point. Not exclusive, so now it gives them a broader scope, right? You figure Metroid Dread sold incredibly well, and it was tied to one console, one platform only. You now have that behind you as one of your staples within your library. Say, hey, so when you release this Project Iron trailer, and you have from the creators of Metroid Dread, right? You have that right in the very beginning of the trailer. You then bring that, that clout with you. Go, hey, we're this guy, we're this team, this is us, and here's our next project. So I'm definitely curious. Do you think they stay with that 2D side scroller aesthetic of it, or did they go into something more 3-dimensional?
Oh well, this is hinted to be a third-person action, so that would be quite different than the side-scrolling kind of stuff to Metroid. But there's certainly a lot of opportunity here. So they could do just about anything, and I have confidence that they could do it properly. I think a third person is a lot safer than a first-person shooter.
Yeah.
Just because in the first-person shooter, you get compared with a lot of the big guys.
Oh, just like the one we're about to talk about right now, Battlefield 2042 has already lost half of its player base. Oh man. Battlefield 2042 is already seeing one of the most talked about game modes, Portal, dying with low number of players. However, the fans are now concerned with the diminishing Battlefield 2042 player base. Reddit user Fury HD took to Battlefield 2042 subreddit to share their concerns. The user shared the player count stats from Battlefield 2042 over the last 10 days. Going from 100,000 down to 50,000. Now, this is coming from SteamDB, so that's only one platform. But Scott, it's still got to be a little concerning to see your numbers drop that dramatically in just 10 days.
Yeah, that's got to be setting off some alarms somewhere, because Battlefield is supposed to be just a giant juggernaut, an easy decision to make. That's usually a solid game, and we're seeing a lot of fan backlash because it just does not measure up, and that's so unfortunate. And the idea that this Portal game mode is just collapsing, it's something that I saw coming when I jumped into it, because it just is lacking what it said it was going to have. it contains a few of the other games, Bad Company 2
Yeah.
and Battlefield 3, but where's Battlefield 4? Why not 4? Where's Battlefield 1, 5? It's
The
missing a
rest-
lot of things. So
Yeah.
how am I can't really do the creative stuff that they said I could do with it. And when you get into the main game and it's just so empty and open, they almost needed to double up the amount of server population.
Can they save this game, Scott, or is it too late already?
I think they can, but it's going to require a lot of time and maybe a different game mode. I know the Hazard Zone is really cool. There is something there for them to grow on.
I like them,
but I'm not sure if that's enough to sustain an entire release.
Yeah. I stated my issues with Hazard Zone, but it's definitely a cool aspect. I like that game mode itself. I thought they had something there to start off of and work that from that foundation and build up, but they might not have anybody to build up to. But these numbers are, take a note, right? This is just Steam DB numbers. That doesn't mean any consoles or the Origin servers, right? But that's just one platform. But still, I can only imagine, dude, if they're on one platform and they're dying off, it kind of follows suit typically on every other platform as well.
Yeah, I would suspect there's just a lot of bailing across the board. People got in there, got their curiosity look. You have to take a look with your own eyes to kind of see what's going on and sort of side everybody's kind of bickering about the game, but it's not got a lot of staying power, and we're seeing that in numbers.
That's unfortunate. But what numbers are getting fixed, though, Scott, is Halo Infinite will give more XP for players' first 6 multiplayer games each day. This is something new that's coming. This is coming from Chris Scullion over at VGC. Halo Infinite's online multiplayer continues to see tweaks to its progression system, with changes being made to the amount of XP players get per multiplayer game. 343 Industries community manager John Jasinsk explained on Twitter today that the development team was continuing to listen to player feedback and change the way XP is earned as a result of this. Quote, when we made our initial change to progression, we added daily play one game challenges, weekly challenges, and doubled the duration of 2 times XP boost. We promised that we'd monitor the data and make additional changes if needed, end quote. Now, it's time to follow up on that. Quote, after seeing how XP was earned for those changes, we noticed that players were starting their sessions with slower payouts than we'd like. To address this, we will be increasing the XP payout for the first 6 matches of each day, end quote. Scott, I like how 343 is really paying attention to the player base and how they're getting perceived, not from only the fans, but from everybody involved in the game. The developers now behind it are tweaking every little aspect, and they're being very, very transparent too. I think that's a cool thing, is that they're being out front and saying, hey, you know what, we see what you guys are doing. We see that, you know, there's not enough boost coming your way and you don't like that. Nobody likes, dude, when that started, there was such a grind for that battle pass. I had the battle pass and I'm like, I'm not getting anywhere on this thing whatsoever. So I do like that they're changing a bunch of things. How are you sitting in the world of Halo Infinite's multiplayer?
Well, I've really just kind of avoided the whole battle pass issue. I haven't looked deeply into it too much, but I've gotten in kind of on a casual side. I jump in for probably about 6 matches actually, and then I'm done. But it's not enough for me to kind of sit and think about the grind as something that I don't want to consider when it comes to Halo. So I'm quite happy ignoring it. But it is nice that you, just as you say, it's they're totally open about it. We are trying to fix things. We're working on tweaking things here and there, and we'll do changes further down the road if this doesn't work out. And I think that's very reassuring. That's exactly what Battlefield needs to do right now, in my opinion.
No, I think you make a good point. That's a valid point. And the fact that Battlefield is kind of seemed to be going under the rug a little bit more, where 343 Industries is right up front and saying, hey, we're noticing all these things, and we're going to start making these adjustments accordingly and kind of get in and go from there. Scott, let's get into one more article and then we're going to wrap up for the day. We talked about it last week, I believe, the fact that one of Battlefield's creative directors have left and moved over to somewhere, but we weren't sure where. But until now we do, because Fuzzy Mesmar joins Ubisoft as VP of Editorial. He's a former DICE head of design, will work with Ubisoft's team to shape the creative visions of his games and ensure the inclusion of diverse perspectives. This comes from Brendan Sinclair over at gamesindustry.biz. Ubisoft announced that it has appointed Fazi Mesmar as its new VP of Editorial. In that role, Mesmar will work with Ubisoft production teams worldwide to shape the creative vision of his games and ensure the inclusion of diverse perspectives throughout the production process, end quote, the publisher said. So that's where he went, and that's kind of where it goes from there, Scott. So there we go.
Well, it's good because we weren't sure if it was necessarily a good maneuver or, is this indicative of something sinister, a problem where he was. And it's good to see that there's some sort of proper end to this. It wasn't just disappearing off the face of the earth because of the reaction of Battlefield. Because I don't want to see anybody get pushed off like that. But
no.
I'm just curious as to editorial. What exactly does that mean for VP of Editorial?
It's
shape the creative vision of its games. So it's more of a planning role, it seems, and putting the right people in the room together.
Well, it says here, we are delighted to welcome him to the editorial team, and I'm confident he will develop strong partnerships with teams across Ubisoft. His expertise will help us continue to unite around a shared vision, strengthening and growing our broad portfolio of games and providing players with enriching, memorable experiences. So it sounds like they're trying to be more cohesive as a unit, as a development studio, because we know how big Ubisoft is, and it sounds to me, this is what I'm kind of getting out of this, is that he's going to be able to coordinate with a bunch of different studios and make sure everybody's on the same page.
Well, that's good, because it's just any sort of fortification over the corporate culture is, well, it's topical. It's something we've seen not work out. And
absolutely,
it's good to see that there's companies have that in mind. They're putting some people with the intention of cleaning up whatever the business is. I don't think there's any issue like that in Ubisoft, but let's keep it away.
No, for sure. Like Scott, we have some new updates for today. There's no actual releases, but let's be quick about this. We only have a few minutes left. What new updates do we have for everybody today?
We have Dauntless is now coming to the PlayStation 5. It will be available tomorrow with cross-gen support and improved visuals. Oh, that's nice. A little bit of an update there.
Yeah.
There is DualSense support, faster loading, new trophies being added, and, well, Dauntless is back. Is that 2 years old now?
At least.
It must be about that
I'd say
long,
maybe even 3. I think when we started ITG, it was just starting as well, somewhere in around there.
There's just on PlayStation 5 though. That's kind of curious. There's no
it's Xbox
Series
too.
X.
It was this was pulled from Push Square, who's just basically a PlayStation centric site.
Okay, well, that makes a lot of sense then. I've been curious. I want to try and see what's going on with that game. It's been so long. But we also have Fireteam's Elite. Sorry, that is Aliens Fireteam Elite. And that'll be available on December 14th on Game Pass. And there's a new update to mark the Season 2 of that game. And that is Point Defense. That's the title of Season 2. It will bring a content patch that includes new Point Defense game mode, a lifetime stats feature, and 4 new weapons. Okay, so they're starting to diversify, add on to the catalog of things there. There's new emotes, new gun attachments, and that's good to see. I want that game to be well supported into the future. I was impressed with that one. Now, you may order Paradise Lost on the Nintendo Switch if you are so inclined. It is pre-order available with a 40% discount.
That's not bad.
The game does release on December 3rd, so this is a very limited time.
Absolutely. Scott, that's going to wrap up today's show. Everybody, thank you for hanging out with us. This has been ITG Daily, a show that brings you the hottest in gaming news. You can always join us live over on twitch.tv/theofficialitg, as well as YouTube at Inside the Game Official. You can't join us live, hit us up later. InsideTheGame.ca, podcast services, and TV streaming networks around the globe. I'm Drew, that's Scott, and we'll see everybody tomorrow inside the game.